Alright guys, hope everyone's well and welcome back to the YouTube channel. So today I'm going to be talking you through a leg day, specifically discussing tempo when it comes to my exercise selection. And like I said, I want to kind of keep going over fresh topics each video, so I'm not just repeating myself when it comes to each session. As you may know, my sessions, they aren't that kind of, what you could say, exciting. They are the exact same week in, week out until I need to change anything. I don't really change anything for the sake of it. So as a result, it can be a bit monotonous going over maybe the same sessions, hence why I'm trying to give you different topics each session. So yeah, 4.5 weeks into the diet, it's going well. I'm round about 12/13 pounds down, sitting at 187 this morning, and my goal weight is to get around 180 pounds before pushing back up to round about 190 before starting prep. So gonna jump in and talk you through the leg session. Hope you enjoy. Feel free to leave a comment, subscribe, and drop a like and share it to your story and show some support. All support is greatly appreciated. So first up in the session we have calves on a leg press. If you don't have a leg press like this form, any other leg press will do. You can also perform it on a Smith machine, or if you have a standing calf raise. Here what I'm pretty much focusing on is pausing in both ranges. Reason being is, I feel like calves especially, if you're bouncing out of that stretch position, it's very easy just to kind of move the weight from A to B and just feel it in your feet. Whereas if you pause it in both ranges, I feel like you get the most out of it. Like, there's such like a big tendon run up the back of our leg, so if we're just bouncing out of that position, we're probably going to be using a bit of momentum in what you could call the stretch reflex. Whereas if you're pausing it, killing that momentum, it means your calf is more likely to actively be taking it out of that position. And I also like pausing this at the top, as it's an isolation movement, so it makes sense to again isolate what you're trying to train. And as well as that, again, if you're not pausing at the top, how do you know you're actually controlling that with your calf in that position? Or if you're just using the momentum from the middle of the rep, get into that position and jumping right out of it. So yeah, I feel like I just anecdotally get more out of these as well, pausing at both ends of the rep, hence why I do so. So next up we've got the adductor, and you'll notice when I'm performing this movement my tempo's a bit faster, like my eccentrics aren't super slow. I'm doing a very slight pause at each end of the rep, but again very slight. The reason being is my set's basically like 20 reps, so you don't need the same control in a 20 rep set as you do a 6 rep set. So something to consider when it comes to kind of deciding what tempo to use for each of your set is what rep range are you working in, have you got any injuries, that sort of thing there. Like if someone's got like bad knees, for example, it's like you should probably maybe consider a slower tempo, limit load exposure, that sort of thing. But again, depends on the rep range completely. So yeah, not kind of overthinking the rep speed here. I'm just trying to, again, slight pause and controlling the eccentric, but I don't need to milk it and do like a 3-4 second eccentric, for example. So next up we have the leg extension, and here I've actually got a high rep set first below a low rep set, and the reason for that is just, again, my knees aren't amazing, so I need to just be mindful about what I'm doing to keep them healthy and in a good spot. And also you'll see I'm pausing this at the top and the bottom, just again limit load exposure, make sure I'm not using momentum and putting a lot of stress on my joints at each end range, if that makes sense. And regardless if you've got fresh knees or they're a bit battered, it is good to pause at the top. Reason being is, when we think about the benefit of leg extension, it's to shorten the quad, so it makes sense to do so. It doesn't make sense just throwing it out of the top position, which is where the actual benefit of the leg extension is. So very happy with how hamstring curls went, and you'll notice with the hamstring curls I'm pausing at the bottom position, or in other words, when your hamstrings in its shortened position, not fully shortened, but more short than if, let's say, you're doing maybe a stiff leg deadlift, a Romanian deadlift. So as a result, I pause there because that's again where the benefit of the movement lies, in my opinion. And if, let's say, you don't pause it, you just throw in that position, take it out again, it's really hard to kind of keep yourself still, keep your hips, lower back and all that tight and stop it from basically moving. And ultimately, if it's your lower back and your hips are moving excessively, it's going to take away from the movement. So it helps you basically execute with good form. I think that's something a lot of people don't think about. Like, not that you need to pause an exercise to make it effective, but it can help in terms of execution, keeping your form in a good spot if you add in a pause here and there. Just again, manage load and as a result get the most out of the movement. So happy with how that went, progressing regardless of being down quite significantly. And next we've got the true squat, which is my compound movement, where I'm pausing at the bottom, just again for my knees, as I touched on previously, but I'm pretty sure you're sick of hearing about it. But yeah, 2 count pause at the bottom, got the stop band-aid to kind of help overload it. One, because it means I don't have to use as much weight in the bottom, and 2, the ability to load the machine is really poor. What you'll notice is I've kind of stacked it with the plates and I need to use a band to keep them on, because I'm not that strong in it, the loading pin's just simply not that long.
So that's walking lunges wrapped up. I didn't record them because I'm obviously walking backwards and forwards in the gym, so it's hard to get actually a good angle, and the gym's really packed, so I just don't want to record everyone while I'm training. But as for walking lunges, no pause on that movement. Reason being is when I'm doing like a walking lunge, the overall time I'm spent doing the exercise and the length I'm holding the dumbbells for, I'm already losing my grip by the end of the set, and it's a 20 to 30 rep set. So again, something to consider when choosing your tempo, choosing if you should pause a movement or not, etc., is how long or what's the rep range for the set, if that makes sense. So that's a consideration to make. And overall, I think if I did pause at the bottom, I'd just be limiting loading and losing my balance for not really any benefit except from using less weight, which will maybe be a bit joint friendlier, but I get on fine with the walking lunges and they don't cause me any issues anyway. So I took 45s for around about 26 reps, which I'm happy with. And next up is the ab crunch. During the ab crunch, what I'm basically focusing on is bringing my chest towards my hips, and in that way you're going to train your abs through like a large range. We don't want to just bend at the hips, we want to focus on crunching, like you're trying to round your back purposely, and then arching slightly at the top. Here I'm pausing at both ends of the rep, because again, I've got one ab movement. If I was doing a few, then maybe I could get away with maybe not pausing one and pausing another, or pausing at one part of the rep on one and pausing the other on another. But I've only got one, so I want to absolutely rinse it, make the most of it, and connect well with my abs, which I think pausing can help with. So focusing on crunching, like I said, and then exhaling when I'm doing the concentric, or in other words, driving down, and that's going to help me get a better contraction here. Wrong way. So that is legs wrapped up. Very happy with this session as a whole, and most movements progress pretty much, which you kind of should be doing when you're dieting anyway, unless you've not got your variables in order when it comes to your nutrition, your sleep, your stress management. You should kind of still be progressing when you get into a dieting phase, especially bigger body parts like maybe back and also leg training. Push, bit hard to progress some movements, but I'm still progressing here and there when it comes to my pressing exercises and my isolation. So yeah, happy with how the session went, and knees are feeling great. So obviously I touched on in the video, my knees have been having issues, but they've kind of been non-existent, to be honest, in terms of the issues. But something important is, if you want to kind of maintain good joint health, don't wait until you're having joint issues to then fix your execution, and take preventative measures instead, if that makes sense. Like, instead of waiting until your knees are battered to start pausing an exercise, you're waiting, it's kind of a bit too late. Start maybe practicing good habits when it comes to execution, longevity in your training, because whenever like I've like had an injury or that, I kind of look back and be like, I could have done this to prevent it. And whenever you've got, like, you can't progress when you're injured ultimately. So the people who progress most stay injury free for long periods of time, and of course nail their variables. So thank you very much for watching. Hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, subscribe, like, leave a comment, and feel free to share on your Instagram story, giving me a tag. Greatly appreciate everyone as always, and have a great rest of your day.